On today's show, welcome to NHL free agency.
We'll break down a pair of signings the Ottawa Senators already made, Steve Steo's priorities, and our own free agency wish list.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome! You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today is Tuesday, July 1st. Happy Canada Day, eh? And Pilsy, the Sens fans were right all along. Marner's leaving!
He's off to Vegas. Classic move for the Vegas Golden Knights. Maybe some tampering, Ross. We'll see if they get a slap on the wrist, hopefully.
It's probably the Leafs' fault.
Yeah, honestly. Or the Sens will lose a draft pick because of this. And yeah, it's nice to see that he's gone, even though he wasn't that big of a threat at certain times. But he did get a lot of points up against the Ottawa Senators. And now I can hate watching Mitch Marner a little bit less.
Yes, you can. And I actually have one stat. We'll get to the Ottawa Senators, of course, but you got to poke fun when you have the opportunity. The accumulated game 5, 6, and 7 playoff stats is courtesy of our old classmate at the College of Sports Media, Evan Render. He works over at TSN. Is this not the most outrageous statistic of all time? In accumulated games 5, 6, and 7, Marner and Nylander both played 18, Matthews 16, and Tavares 15. Marner had 0 goals in those 18 games, 6 assists in 18 games.
Not clutch. We'll see if he can figure that out with the Golden Knights.
Sheesh. All right, okay, let's get to the most important things. And while one team in the division, the Toronto Maple Leafs, no doubt got worse, losing Mitch Marner.
You
don't think
Nicholas Waugh for Mitch Marner was an equal value deal?
No, I really don't. No, I really don't. I hate to say it. I almost posted the video of Nicolas Waugh completely mishandling a shootout attempt at the World Juniors that lost Canada the gold medal against Team USA. But I decided, you know what? I don't want any bad vibes coming our way around free agency. So I held off. And I thought you were going to say it's Matias Maccelli, not a Mitch Marner replacement. I also saw Leaf fans be like, look how unbelievable this pass was. Now, the pass was great, but he completely fanned on his initial pass, and it was more just like panic. How do I get it over there? But hey, we actually like Maccelli, but he's a smaller player and not intimidating at all. It doesn't change the DNA. You're literally, you lost out on the name brand, and now you're going with the Walmart brand of Mitch Marner and Matias Maccelli. And maybe the clearance rack because he's a healthy scratch in Vegas. Okay, so those are the teams in the Atlantic, or the team in the Atlantic that got worse. The only problem, Pilsy, is all these teams, they were trying to cover up the big breaking news. Not only the Leafs making that sign and trade with the Vegas Golden Knights for Mitch Marner, but the Florida Panthers announcing back-to-back they were re-signing Aaron Ekblad and Brad Marchand. But the hockey world was already on its toes because Leevi Meriläinen signed a 1-year contract extension worth $1.025 million. It is a 1-year, one-way contract. Now, there was a little confusion in my pea brain of whether that affected waivers or not. The fact is, it does not. So, the only difference than a 2-way contract for Meriläinen, who has not reached the games played or years of service threshold to need waivers, it just means whether he's in the NHL or in the AHL, he's going to make over $1 million. And I would say he probably earned $1 million in the 12 games that he played last year. So I think this is a nice fair deal for both sides. Don't try to grind it out where you gave him the qualifying offer. That means that that's a 2-way contract, which would mean he made $80,000 in the American Hockey League if he accepted that qualifying offer. So I think this is a great deal for both sides. You can see where the goaltending situation is at next year, see where his development is at next year. And I would say in the CTC, these teams are always looking ahead. They've got him penciled in as the backup goalie for 26-27.
Yeah, most likely. I think this is a fine deal to make. Leevi Meriläinen saved the Ottawa Senators season last year, and I would say that's worth a couple hundred grand extra than he would have got on a qualifying offer. I mean, I guess more than a couple $100,000. So yeah, I don't have an issue with this. The key is that he can be sent down through waivers without being claimed. That's the key to this. And I still think, I know there's Sens fans that think he's ready to be the backup, and that's fine, but I still think you need a veteran third string guy as an insurance marker here. Who knows who that'll be? There's not a lot of great options out there. Maybe Anton Forsberg, but I bet Forsy kind of finds a way to get the bag somewhere else based on the supply and demand of veteran backups. But I'd be nervous if the Ottawa Senators didn't bring in another goalie with more NHL experience.
Yeah, now the UFA market is very thin when it comes to goaltenders. Only Anton Forsberg and Jake Allen of the New Jersey Devils had save percentage above 900 of anybody. So we'll see what the Ottawa Senators decide to do there. But even though it's a one-way contract, do not expect the Sens to stand pat when it comes to their organizational depth at the NHL level in goaltending. That move was quickly followed by another, per Lalim's Martian, Nick Cousins, re-signing, getting a $25,000 pay bump from last year. He signed a 1-year, $825,000 contract, and it's unfortunate he missed as much time as he did due to that knee injury. Credit to him for battling back. He was not himself in the playoffs. I think he would tell you the same. Missed game 1, and I know he had come back for a couple games before then, but clearly it was still lingering. The biggest impact he made in that series was putting a puck. I don't even want to call it shooting. He putted a puck at Anthony Stolarz in a warm-up. So I think he actually paid to play in the playoffs this year when it comes to the fine that he ended up getting there. But I think this is a nice depth move. However, the question then becomes, and maybe you can give me a take on the Cousins deal, but the question becomes, is he your fourth line left winger locked in? Or are the Senators going to still be in the market for a bottom six forward that would give them flexibility at the NHL level where Cousins or the player that you sign could kind of be interchangeable in and out of the lineup?
First, I like the Cousins re-signing at $825 for a veteran guy that has playoff experience and brings some edge to your lineup, but also has a bit of a scoring touch as far as a bottom six guy goes. Great deal. Bring him back. Belleville native. Awesome. A guy you'd rather have on your team than play up against. One of those classic, if he's not on your team, you absolutely hate the guy. He was rated the most punchable face in the NHL by the Players Anonymous poll. So when he's on your team, you love him. When he's not, you hate him. Good call bringing him back at $825.
Glue guy too.
Yep. I do think that he should be an extra, though. I would like him to be the 13th forward, and I would like the Ottawa Senators to either find someone that can be a top six scorer, which is not easy, and it's going to cost you. And there's not a lot of those available in free agency. We know that. Or, and this is more likely the way they go and where I'm hoping to go, and we'll address this in our wish list, but fourth line winger or wingers with size and physicality and more of a defensive style aspect to their game.
Yeah, maybe a PK guy in there as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we will get to that later on in the show. And we have our 5 players, maybe a couple more, that we would like the Senators to target. So with those signings, that means the only players that were on last year's team that could be gone due to free agency. And let's just talk about the regulars for now. That would be Anton Forsberg and Adam Gaudette.
Yep.
And Travis Hamonic.
Yes.
But apparently negotiations still continue with Adam Gaudette. Where's your thought process on, 1, if that makes sense, and 2, what that contract could look like?
I mean, at the right price, I wouldn't hate it. But as we're going to get into with the fourth line center, I think the number one priority should be a left shot face-off guy. And number 2 priority, a penalty killing expert. Like, I want the fourth line guy to be getting his minutes through the PK and being a strong left shot guy, because the Ottawa Senators have so many right shot face-off guys in their lineup. If you need him, if a face-off is on a certain side in your own end and you want some good defensive play, that's the kind of guy I'm looking for in my fourth line. But I mean, Adam Gaudette, say what you want. I know a lot of people are just like, all he does is score goals. He doesn't bring anything else to the table. He had good 5-on-5 metrics, and scoring 19 goals in mostly a bottom six role. I know he spent some time in the top six, which cannot happen again, but mostly in a bottom six role. It's pretty good. So as long as the money's right, I'd bring him back. But I don't know. If I'm Adam Gaudette and his agent, I'm going to free market and I'm trying to get a big 1-year bag somewhere.
Yeah, especially with how thin the free agent market is right now after a flurry of re-signings yesterday afternoon, including some guys who got paid. More so defensemen. I mean, Martin Ferravari with the Washington Capitals getting $6 million on a long-year contract.
How about Ivan Provorov getting 8.5 on a long-term deal too? Now, I think he's a decent player, but if you're like Rasmus Anderson or some of these other there's another guy I'm blanking on here, but there's other defensemen that are looking at that and they're just saying cha-ching, that's raising our value big time.
Yep. And with that, the Ottawa Senators pivot and go get Jordan Spence at $1.5 million at the draft for next season and being an RFA afterwards. So they've been very frugal with their money this offseason, signing guys to less than we predicted beforehand.
Responsible, I would say, Ross.
Well, maybe they're setting themselves up because the Ottawa Senators, without a backup goalie and with one forward needed to complete their NHL roster, hopefully two, though, because you want to carry an extra forward with you. So with 2 forward spots and a backup goalie needed, the Senators currently have $7.36 million in cap space. Of course, if Leevi Meriläinen is your backup goalie next season, that amount of cap space would go down to 6.2 and change. So how do we spend that? Let's get into that next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Look, hockey's over, but summer sports are in full swing. Whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little bit more thrilling? And with FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburnt at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. I love the profit boost they have on MLB games. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. When I'm placing a same-game parlay, a little Pillsy parlay action, or watching a bet ride into the 9th inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm still a part of the action. And hey, if you're new to FanDuel, now's a great time to sign up. New customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. So open the FanDuel app today, love the app, or visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started.
All right, Pillsy, reminder that you can make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast, free and available on YouTube as well. If you're looking for breaking news later today, we will have content for you whenever news breaks for the Ottawa Senators. You can also find us on social media at Sens Central on Twitter, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram, and this is one of the best times of the year. The NHL draft, obviously the cherry on top, seeing these kids realizing one of their lifelong dreams and all the movement that comes along with it. But now the dust has settled on that, and it is time to improve your team however you can. Before we get to all that, Pillsy, it's Canada Day. What is your favorite part of Canada?
Oh, well, I know the answer everyone wants me to say is Ottawa, the nation's capital, beautiful place. I always mention it's like a second home for me, even though I didn't really grow up there. But every time I go there, I feel so welcomed and it just has a warm place in my heart. But gotta be honest, I'm a West Coast guy. I love British Columbia. The Okanagan is absolutely incredible. Vancouver Island, Tofino is amazing. I love the mountains. So the West Coast is really where my soul is most of the time.
Okay. I said, what's your favorite thing about Canada, not place?
Places are things.
Oh, wow. You got me there.
But like classic Canada vibe. I'm an Ontario born and raised guy. Love cottage country. Was just at the cottage this weekend, Ross. Nothing like taking the boat out, then having a beer on the dock on a nice sunny day by the lake. That's classic Canada Day vibes for me.
Yeah, well, Canada's got the third most fresh water in the world, and we take advantage of that for the short times we do. I think my answer would be just the variety that Canada has. You go to different parts of the country, and it's just so different, and each one has their own je ne sais quoi about them. I always say Quebec City in the fall when the leaves are turning, the rolling hills over there, and the history that town has. Living in Halifax for a couple of years, you get a little bit of that East Coast, the slowed down lifestyle a little bit with the beautiful water there. And then, of course, there's Ottawa, just my favorite place on planet Earth. All the green space downtown. Then you get on that GCP shuttle and you're like, this is God's country right here. We're going out to Canada, Ontario, when we're going to see the Ottawa Senators. You got the Rocky Mountains, which is obviously just one of the most beautiful places in the world. And I'm a big Canada guy. Go Canada. Same. Go. All right, Pillsy. So with the Ottawa Senators this offseason, what's the biggest move you think that they could pull out of their bag?
Biggest would be finding a top 6 scoring winger, specifically someone that you feel can play well with Tim Stützle. That would be the biggest move, in my opinion.
I'm going to go with re-signing Shane Pinto, which they can start negotiating today, as there's 1 year left on his contract. The Senators, if you look forward to their salary cap structure for the following season, not this upcoming one, but the next one, they're in a really good spot with $32 million in cap space and already 13 of their 20 roster players signed. So I think getting that out of the way early, and we know that Shane Pinto has had some snags in contract negotiations before and kind of had to take less for a variety of reasons. And I think that this would be a great opportunity to add Shane Pinto officially into the core of this team.
But Ross, come on, not today. Let's wait till a little slower news day. Come on, you got to be a responsible, a responsible podcast producer. We can't have it all happen on one day here.
Yeah, well, we'll see how busy the Senators are today, as we are an hour and 15 minutes away from the opening of free agency frenzy. We're going to get this out to you as quick as we can, and then again, react to anything that comes out throughout the day. But we already kind of touched on this, but quickly, and then in the next segment, we'll get into the wish list itself. But what should the Ottawa Senators, Steve Staios, and management's top priorities be going into this opportunity to improve their team?
So you might be looking at free agency, and sorry for James Duthie and anyone that does a full day trying to cover free agents frenzy.
I am so over the pity party for trade deadline and free agency. You know why?
Okay, why?
Because this actually gives them content. They're not on the fly like, oh my goodness, what the heck? Now it's, what do these signings that have already happened, what do they mean?
That's fair.
It's worse if nothing happens overall, because if they get to trade deadline or free agency day and there's nothing right away, then they're like, oh, now what do we do? It's like, it's a pity party either way. You got the content, you got the deals, and there were so many of them yesterday that they could spend an hour sifting through what each one of them means, which would then give them time to have new content come in. So I actually think yesterday night's signings were all beneficial for those shows today.
All right. That's fair. So scratch that from the script.
Yeah, scratch it. We'll cut that.
I forgot the director scratched that one out from our scripted show here. Anyways, maybe you're looking at the free agent board and being like, oh man, there's not that many big names. So many guys re-signed yesterday. It was a huge day. But it's actually a great day, and there's great opportunities for the Ottawa Senators to find some bottom 6 players. There are a handful of good bottom 6 guys that fit what the Ottawa Senators need, or even middle 6 guys that you think maybe with the right opportunity could really flourish. And maybe you don't have to sign them to big deals. A lot of these guys probably looking for show me 1-year deals to try to improve their stock for next offseason or what have you. Lots of good options at fourth line center. I think there's a bunch of players I'm looking at there. So if I'm the Ottawa Senators, I'm not going to trade any assets to acquire a fourth line center. You have options to sign cheap guys in free agency that could be good and fit your needs. And then, unfortunately, you do need to find another goalie, like I mentioned, and there's not great options there. But those would be my top two things that the Ottawa Senators need to look at, Ross. Fourth line center, veteran, backup goalie.
Yep, those are top two on mine. The one that I'll add is a rugged winger to play in the bottom six, but maybe one that in the past has had some offensive pop, but maybe it hasn't been as prevalent in recent years, because then you're kind of saying, okay, they've got their A game, which might be other players' B games, but then maybe there is that B game where they can contribute a little bit offensively, because Ottawa, as we know, was towards the bottom of the league in 5-on-5 scoring, even after the deadline, dead last in the league overall. But when you account for when they added Zetterlund, added Cousins, and during that time, Brady Tkachuk wasn't 100% either. So you haven't seen what this whole forward core can produce, which is why I think that you're going to get more goals out of those guys. That I think just having that physicality on the bottom six, but maybe like I'll wait to throw out a name, but I'll explain my reasoning next.
And Ross, less priority, but something they should be looking at, and this will be, we're going to see how Matt Turek puts his fingerprints on the Belleville lineup, is finding those fringe NHLers, like guys who'd be comfortable in a short sample size playing in the bottom six of the NHL, but can be consistent producing top six AHL forwards. That would be another thing to look at here.
As it stands now, the Ottawa Senators, and I'll include Zach McEwen, despite him being on a one-way contract, but I'll include him here. The Ottawa Senators have, why don't we play the guessing game so I can count while you do? How many forwards do you think the Sens have signed for Belleville next season? And obviously you need 12, and usually you'll have 13 or 14.
I don't think it's that many. I know they're set on the D-core with a lot of young guys.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for forwards 7?
6. They have 6
yeah.
forwards signed right now. Now, it could be as many as 8, because Xavier Bourgault and Jan Yannick both did get qualifying offers. Happy trails, by the way, to Philip Daou, Tristan Robbins, and Jamison Reese. None received qualifying offers, which I know they aren't like big pieces in the organization, but Daou and Robbins both played center. So you're going to have to replace a couple centermen down there. Garrett Pilon in our depth chart, we have him as a center, but he played wing. He's pretty much like Giroux, where he takes faceoffs but plays the wing at this point in his career. So there's not a whole lot of organizational depth down the middle. So I think for Belleville, it's going to be critical to get centermen into the fold. And we're going to be following that just as closely, because we love Belleville. That's where we kind of got our start working with the organization in the media, and just kind of getting our feet wet, getting a little bit of credibility, driving down from Toronto to go and work those 3 hours minimum wage, get a couple Wendy's into us on the way there, and then make the drive back right away. But we love Belleville. We want to see that city have success, and it does serve sometimes as an indicator for future success for your organization when your farm team is a winner. So how can the Senators improve? We've got our UFA wish list next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day. All right, Pillsy. So as we're on this Canada Day morning ahead of free agency, I feel really lucky. I've been to all but one province in Canada. Now, I've never been up to the territories, although maybe I went into Yukon for a quick minute when I was in Alaska, but that's a story for another day. Can you guess which province I have not been to?
Saskatchewan.
Correct. I've never stepped foot in Saskatchewan. And at this point in my life now, just about 33, I think it'd be a good bid if I just never go.
I mean, you're right next door to it now.
Exactly. That's why. I mean, that's pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, I have driven through Saskatchewan many times. I've made the drive from
Okay.
Ontario to BC, I think 3 times there and back. So I've put the kilometers on. I've seen the country. I also, Ross, have only never been to one province. Can you guess my province?
Oh, but you're such a driver, so you're all over. Oh,
Big-time driver.
Newfoundland, the one you
Yes,
can't
that
drive
is-
to.
That is correct. You got it. But not because I don't want to go. I'm very stoked to go to Newfoundland. It's on my list. Some of the provincial parks there, and maybe even there's some of them are national parks. So apologies, but some of them look absolutely sweet. Different style of mountains than the Rocky Mountains that I typically like. But yeah,
They're closer to
definitely gonna make my way
fjords.
there.
Eh?
Ooh, I'm a big fjord guy too. So that's
Oh
sweet.
yeah, big time. I had a great buddy that helped open the Adelaide Oyster House in St. John's, so I went out there a couple times when I was living in Halifax. The people there are unbelievable. Spent some time in Kitty Vidi, head to all the great attractions, but it's all about the people in Newfoundland as well. We love that. Cape Spear, furthest eastern point in North America as well. Just great people, great country we live in. And on my own personal Twitter, I asked where the most beautiful place in Canada is. And as I sift through all the replies saying the CTC, there are some really good ones. Well, we're talking about the East Coast. The Cabot Trail in Cape Breton is unbelievable. A quick story is that we went there for a hike, did the entire Highline Trail. And we were looking for moose the whole way. We're like, we got to find one, got to see one.
Okay.
You know where we saw one? In the parking lot when we were leaving.
Nice. Well, hey, still
right in the nick of time.
Still counts. Yeah, I am turning into an East Coast lover, Ross. I hadn't been till a couple of years, but I'm going back to PEI in a couple of weeks. I am dreaming of a lobster roll, so I'm stoked for that.
The best. Yeah, I'm heading to Cape Breton in August for a bachelor party as well. Don also says Lake Louise. That's unreal as well. Yep. There's so many beautiful places in Canada. I know everybody in the news is trying to dump on us these days, but in terms of natural beauty, you're not going to find a whole lot like Canada. Like even parts of the country that you don't know much about. For example, for me, when I did the drive from Toronto to Winnipeg for the first time,
Northern Ontario, I told you about this.
The stretch from Sault Ste. Marie to Thunder Bay is one of the most beautiful drives I've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
What a country. What a place. And we need a Stanley Cup back in Canada. No, we need a Stanley Cup in Ottawa. Free agency is one of those opportunities, as Steve Stais would say, to make your team better. So we've talked about the priorities. 4th line center, maybe a rugged winger in the bottom 6, maybe a middle 6 winger that can add some scoring juice. That'd be cool too. And we need to decide who our targets are to fill those roles. Do you want to start or do you want me? Do you want to draft teams? You want to get set for the Ring of Honor season? So I'll go one, you go one. We'll do 4 guys each. That's 8 targets overall. And of course, when one is taken, you cannot then pick mine. I can't pick yours. And we're going to put this out on social media and you're going to say, which would you rather as a whole overall? And we're sticking to unrestricted free agents. We're not going to worry about trades, but I will throw out the name. I know you don't like this, but if you could get the Islanders to retain money on Jean-Gabriel Pageau, he seems like he's the odd man out on Long Island. He's got 40 points, 59% in the faceoff dot last year. We know he can kill penalties. We know he loves Ottawa. He's going into the final year of his contract. I think there's a lot to like about Pageau, except you're not getting him at over $5 million. That's for sure.
So that's your 1-1 draft pick?
No, I said we're only doing UFAs. So
okay.
I just wanted to get that name in there before we start going.
Yeah, great. I love Pageau, but I'm very out on that deal. To get him 50% retained is going to cost you draft capital that the Ottawa Senators cannot afford, and he's not a 4th line center. He's better than that. So sorry, that's a nostalgia one that you want to make happen, but doesn't really make sense. Sorry,
Erik Karlsson's still available. No, we're done with that.
Okay.
Because I swung and missed in your mind there, and maybe we'll have a couple commenters say, bring back the Honey Badger, JGP. 4 goals. That's absolutely sick. You can go first. Who's your number 1 target in free agency?
Oh, okay. Well, if you're handing it over to me, I'll go with Radek Faksa. You handed it over to me. I honestly think that he is the top guy that the Ottawa Senators should go for, Ross. And he played with the Dallas Stars and St. Louis Blues, mostly Dallas.
He was so good last year in the playoffs against Winnipeg.
Yeah, and this guy is an elite face-off guy. Finished with 57% in the dot last year, 54, 56, 55, 55. Those are all his face-off stats. Career in 708 games, he's a 52.3% face-off guy. He kills penalties. He's been in Selke voting 4 times in his career, obviously lower down in those votes, but that's the guy, in my opinion. He's a left shot center. He's 6'3", 215 pounds. Good Czechia guy, lots of experience. Radek Faksa, my first pick for the Ottawa Senators.
That would have been my 1-1 as well. He's got experience. He's a former first-round pick that signed his ELC at 18 years old. He's already played 750-odd games in the NHL, or 730, plus playoffs in there too. A number of years. He's been on a few deep runs with the Dallas Stars. So I just think there is a lot to like about what Radek Faksa could bring to an NHL lineup. I'm gonna start a little bit stronger here in terms of maybe this is out of the Senators' budget per se, but it would bring that scoring punch and a versatile player. How about Victor Olofsson? With the Vegas Golden Knights last year, had 15 goals, 29 points in only 56 games. That was his first year after coming over from Buffalo, where he was brutal his last year in Buffalo. But before that, I mean, he's a 3-time 20-goal scorer. He's got an elite shot. And I'm just thinking of guys who, in the right circumstance, or if there's an injury, could jump up and play with the skilled playmakers that the Senators already have.
Yeah, all right. I like him. He's a guy that's been on my radar for a while. I think he'd be cheap. He has a great shot, kind of a defensive liability. But if you're looking for just scoring touch, he's the guy. The only thing is I don't know where you put him in the lineup, because I don't know if you want to put him on that top line, and the bottom 6 is already kind of accounted for. So if it was the right money for 1-year deal, I could be interested in that.
It's a shooter, man. Career 13.5 shooting percentage. I just think the Ottawa Senators, because I've seen some people say Jonathan Drouin. I just feel like you need to have more of a shooter than a disher.
You need a shooter. Yeah. So
there's a shooter. So that's why he's my first pick. And that brings me to my second pick. And this is the player that I was teasing earlier on in the show. And there is risk here because he's coming off an injury that cost him all but 13 games last season. But another former first-round pick, Anthony Mantha, I think could be a really nice addition. 6'5", 234 pounds, left shot, but can play either wing. I think he is the perfect fourth-line winger that has that opportunity and history of a guy who has been able to score 20 goals multiple times in his career. Anthony Mantha would be someone who, if they end up signing him, I'd say, damn, that could be good. And because he missed most of the year with injury, I'm not sure if it's most of the year or all of the year. It might be all of, but I should probably know that before saying it. But there's a chance that he could qualify for performance bonuses.
He played 13 games last year.
But how many do you need to qualify for performance bonuses?
I think it's 0. I think you have to miss the whole year. I think I could be wrong on that. Not a cap expert.
It just says veteran players, he's over 30, who have missed significant time due to injury and signed 1-year deals.
Okay. He's 30, so I don't.
Oh, here we go. I got it here. Oh, we're working hard today. Players who have played 400 or more NHL games, Anthony Mantha certainly in that category. He's played 507, and who have spent over 100 days on the IR. So he qualifies.
There we go. Like it. Yeah. He and Quebec guy too. So get a little bit of that Francophone flavor.
Longueuil.
Yeah, I like it, Ross. My only concern is he's so injury prone that he might be a non-factor, or
he played 74 games the year before.
Yeah. That's a good a low risk, high upside swing. So I don't mind that one at all.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, my next one, and you're going to see a theme with how I'm going here. Nico Sturm, Stanley Cup champion with the Florida Panthers. Now, he didn't play a lot with them, only played 15 games in the regular season with them, and then only 8 with them in the playoffs. He also won a cup with the Colorado Avalanche, so 2-time Stanley Cup champion. We want to bring some winners on here. A fellow German for Tim Stützle. Get a little bit of that German flavor on this team too.
Wasn't he named to the Olympic team?
Yeah, he was one of the 6.
Okay, there you go.
Left shot, 6'3", 209-pound center, and good in the faceoff dot. In his 7-year career in the NHL, 331 games, he's a career 56.5% in the dot. With San Jose this year, Ross, Giroux, what was he at? 61.9 or something?
Yep.
In San Jose, in 47 games, Nico Sturm was a 62.7%. Now, obviously taking way less draws, 279. So that's not high volume, but this guy can be a really effective faceoff guy. Doesn't bring a whole lot of scoring to the table. Got to be honest. He only had 14 points in something like 62 games or something. Yeah, 62 games. But as a fourth line center, he'd be cheap. He brings that defensive responsibility. He is a penalty killer, not major with the teams that he played on, but did spend some time there. So I think that checks a lot of the boxes there. I like Nico Sturm as an option.
Yeah, I like that. I'm much less excited about Nico Sturm than I am about Mantha, Olofsson, or Radek Faksa, but he could fit that role, and that's what we're looking for, guys who can play the role that they're given.
Any of those other guys have Stanley Cup champions? Is Mantha with the Caps? No, I think he was gone at that point.
No, he was with Detroit at that time. So no, Anthony Mantha's actually only played 14 playoff games, including 3 last year after he got traded at the deadline, and then twice with Washington. With Washington, he had 6 points in 11 games, but he's still looking for his first playoff goal. So maybe that's something to keep in mind with Anthony Mantha. Okay, I've got 2 more here to wrap things up. One of them, I think versatility could be the name for him. I know he's played a lot, if not exclusively wing at the NHL level, but he does have a history playing center, but I would sign him as that fourth line winger that has a bit of offensive upside. And that's Anthony Beauvillier. Would be another. I'm going with back-to-back French Canadians here, but I think Beauvillier showed after the trade to Washington that he can still be a really good player. He was kind of in a bit of a doldrum in his career for a little while, but it feels like he's all the way back now. And after a really solid second half of the year, 6 points in 10 playoff games as well, I just think that he would be kind of that low-cost guy that can help out scoring in the bottom 6.
Where do you put him?
I probably put him at left wing on the fourth line.
Yeah.
So you'd still need a centerman in this situation, but you could say the same about Mantha.
Yeah, which is why I didn't go that route. I don't know. I like the ideas, Ross, but I don't think those are fitting the right priorities and needs of the Sens. And those guys are probably going to be a little bit more expensive as well. And there'll be some bidding for them as well, especially Beauvillier. I think there's going to be a bidding war for him.
Well, the next guy I'm going to take, there's going to be a bidding war for too. And some people might call me absolutely nuts with this one. But I'm going with another winger because you took my favorite centerman. I'm basically either Faksa or Adam Gaudette right now. I can be convinced on Nico Sturm, but I feel like I've just talked myself into needing Radek Faksa. Pilsy, I'm going with Corey Perry.
Nice. Yeah, I like it.
I'm going with Corey Perry. This guy sneaky at 20 goals, 40 points in 80 games this year. Or sorry, rather, 19 goals, not 20, and 30 points, not 40. I was looking at Evgeny Dadonov right beside him. I think we do not want Dadonov. We want to keep all our first-round picks going forward. They do have, though, Dadonov did have a modified no-trade clause on his last contract. It was 2 contracts ago, the one with the Gong Show with Ottawa. But Corey Perry, I mean, all this guy hasn't been able to do the last 6 years is win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I'd love to lose a Stanley Cup final. I'd love that.
Love to.
Yeah.
I know he played, like, it's so hard to look at metrics of players that you know played with McDavid and Draisaitl because they just get carried all the time. But Corey Perry's that net front guy. And not only that, he would bring the mentality in that room where we have to win. Like, there's no real other option. Now, would it be an aging winger core having Giroux, Perron, and Corey Perry? Yeah, you definitely would have to consider that. But I still think at 41 years old, Corey Perry would be a beneficial addition to this team.
Yep, I agree. I think the realistic meter on your picks are a little off here. It's gonna pop on the graphic, so you're probably gonna get the
Pop
win
on
on
the
the graphic.
dude. If I wanted to pop on the graphic, I would have taken Brock Besser, Nikolai Ehlers, Mikael Granlund, and Pius Suter.
Okay. I don't think of all the places Corey Perry will have to choose from that he will choose Ottawa, but I would love to have him, and I think that's a player that would be a good fit for sure.
Okay, Pillsy, your final pick.
I have 2, don't I?
No, you got 1.
I thought I only took Faxa and Sturm.
Maybe. Oh yeah, because there's only 2 of us. We got lost in a 2-person snake. Hell yeah.
It happens. Don't worry. So my next pick, I'll switch from centerman, Ross. You can see the theme that I have is their needs on the 4th line. I want some size, some physicality. This is a guy I've been targeting for a while. Justin Brazeau. If you're unfamiliar with him, he's a right shot winger, 6'5", 220 pounds, from Ontario. And last year, he actually had a good year. He had 11 goals and 11 assists and 2 assists in the playoffs with the Minnesota Wild. But this guy adds size, physicality. That's what I want on the 4th line right now if you're looking for a winger. So I think he would be the perfect addition. And I think he would come pretty cheap. And he would be a guy, too, that maybe if he's not able to play full-time in the NHL, he could be a good AHL top 6 guy that would add some size to Belleville, too.
Yeah. And is he a local guy as well?
He's from Ontario. I don't know about local. New Liskard?
I think that's...
I don't know where that is, to be honest.
Ontario. Temiskaming Shores. I want to say there's a Justin Brazeau connection. It is... do you know Haileybury?
No.
It's in northeastern Ontario.
Oh, okay.
But it's pretty far up there. It's not around the corner.
Okay, but still, Ontario... Good size. Yeah. He can play either wing, so a little bit of versatility there. And yeah, 11 goals, 11 assists for a 4th liner is pretty solid.
He's a big boy too, so I don't hate that. Yeah,
huge.
That's one of those themes that we've kind of had across here, like with Anthony Mantha as well. I feel like Mantha or Brazeau would both be fit. So that's what we've got as our target.
Whoa! I got one more pick.
I know. I'm just playing with you.
No, you were ready to wrap that up. Nope. You got lost in it again.
No.
Now another priority, backup goalie. This is another guy I've been targeting for a while. I would look at Alex Lyon. I know his numbers weren't amazing, but think about that season where he saved the Florida Panthers, helping them get into the playoffs. He's reliable enough that I would be fine with him being an NHL veteran backup playing, 25 plus games. Sign him to a cheap 1-year deal. But again, maybe people are sick of hearing me say this, but getting a veteran goalie is a priority for the Sens. I don't think it would be responsible going into the season only having Ullmark and Leevi Meriläinen.
I agree with that, but I think you probably look at a trade. Like, that's something I would spend one of those 3rd-round picks on.
Yeah, but see, I don't spend assets on a backup goalie and a 4th-line center.
I know, but they don't have anything. They don't have anything when it comes to the market out there. Like, unless you just want a placeholder, because I have advocated before that.
And that's essentially what it is. Yeah. I'm not saying Alex Lyon's going to save the Senator season at any point, or that he's this awesome slam dunk option, but he fills a need you have, in my opinion. And I think you could get him at a cheap 1-year deal.
Yeah, you probably could. But is it going to be hard to convince a goalie to come here when you're basically, if you're being honest with them, telling them that even if Ullmark is out for whatever reason, that you're not going to play?
Yeah, I mean, that would have to be a part of the negotiations. I think it would be better to have Leevi be the number 1 guy in Belleville, and then when injuries happen, then he can come and have a bigger role in the NHL. Having Leevi be the backup all year round and only playing 20 to 25 games, I don't think is what's best for his development. I want Allmark playing a lot of games. You're paying him big bucks as a number one goalie, and when he's on, we've seen he can be incredible. So we'll see. And also, I am a little concerned about that back. The back injury took a lot of time out of him last year, and to have Leevi Meriläinen have to be the number one guy for longer than the 12 games or whatever he had would be putting a lot of pressure on the kid. So
no, he's still ready. He's still ready. He got a shutout in his last game. It's his job, dude.
Don't get it twisted. I'm not saying I don't believe in him. I'm not saying he can't do it. I'm just saying it's responsible to have another option. Dude, if that happens and Leevi has to play games, I'm down. Let's do it. But I don't want him to feel like he's the only option if something does happen.
Okay. Is it okay if I end the draft now?
Well, now that we've ended the draft, yes, it is okay.
Final thoughts. Bruce Garriock on Twitter. The Sens will show some level of interest in Brock Besser and Tanner Jeannot today. So there you go.
Yeah, Tanner Jeannot would be another guy I would look at.
Same vibe as Anthony Mantha, same vibe as Justin Brazeau, but meaner and has
smaller.
less offense. No,
Yeah.
dude, you think he's small?
Smaller than Mantha and Brazeau, yeah.
Maybe less tall, but he's a freaking unit.
Those guys, Mantha and Brazeau, are 6'5", 220.
Yeah, he's 6'2", 220.
Yeah, okay. All right. So it's still a little smaller. But
and then it would be a yearly tradition that someone who hurts Artem Zub signs with Ottawa after David Perron did the year before. And that was one of the biggest. I was at that game. That was one of the biggest hits I've ever seen.
Yeah. It was,
by someone not named Chris Neal.
Yeah, it was massive.
Crazy.
Also, you got to think.
He's a lot better of a player to get, Pillsy, when you don't have to give up. How many draft picks did Tampa give up to get Tanner Jeannot?
I know one of them was a first rounder, right?
I think it was a first, a second, a third, a fourth, and a fifth.
Yeah, it was something crazy. Yeah, they were all in on that. So if you can get them in free agency, that's better.
First, top 10 protected, a second, a third, a fourth, and a fifth.
Wow. And also, you got to think the Sens are going to be talking to Brandon Tanev every year. They look at him. I hated the idea of trading for him because his cap hit was way too high, but I like him as a player. And if you can get the cap hit right and he can be your fourth line winger, I'm down for that.
I believe it was Riker Lee that they took with that first round pick this year from the Tanner Jeannot trade. So there you go. Tanner Jeannot, a player the Sens will show interest in today. Let's get this out quick. Obviously, we went long, classic us, and we will be here when news breaks. But that's Brandon Piller. I'm Ross Levitan. Thank you for liking, watching, listening, and engaging with the show. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.